My dear friends, I love you. I hope you're doing very, very well. I hope you all feel safe. I hope you all feel loved. I hope you all feel secure within yourselves, securely rooted in the presence, in the consciousness, in the fullness, in the cosmic nature of what you are. I hope you feel fortified. I hope you feel encouraged. I hope you feel whatever degree of fearlessness you have access to feeling. I hope you feel supported. I hope you feel held. I hope you feel the truth. Many of you have asked me to comment on what's happening in the world. And well, like the most important aspect of this whole thing, this whole coronavirus thing, is to not let it change your relationship to yourself. Again, everything in this universe is vibration, and I know that people kind of believe that or conceptually have heard about it, even sort of mainstream people, for lack of a better word, and or scientists, skeptics, or people that are not into sort of active spirituality. Have heard of those terms, obviously, of everything is vibrating, everything is frequency, everything is energy. So we kind of all have that conceptual knowledge by now. But we still relate to day-to-day life as most predominantly as if it works solely by Newtonian laws. And with this whole collective consciousness thing freaking out at the moment, it's all the more important that you don't let that affect your relationship to yourself. You can have it deepen it. You can investigate into your fears. You can use it as a beautiful opportunity to investigate into everything you believe about it. And but just know that the most important thing of anything that I'm about to potentially share is that your relationship to yourself vibrationally, the consciousness with which you carry yourself, is of the utmost value and importance. And is all one massive reflection and catalyst for the world to further its awakening and to deepen its relationship to itself. Now, of course, living in a world where most everybody walks around like a headless chicken and like a sheep, just believing quite blindly, typically in what they're conditioned to believe and how they're conditioned and filtered to see, how they've trained themselves to see through the filters that the collective tends to agree on. So we're in a collective bubble of sorts, and this virus thing is one of the tools to help us kind of pop that bubble and make the veil more transparent. How do I feel about the coronavirus? And it feels funny for me to even say that word in sort of a public message like this, as if it's a real solid thing. Not saying that there is no reality where there is such a virus. I believe there is. I believe it is a virus. But again, from a broader perspective, all things that can exist do exist, and so just because something is gaining more consciousness in our collective doesn't necessarily mean that suddenly there's a reason to freak out or give it too much reality. When I say these things, a lot of people sort of criticize that for not being vigilant and not being responsible. But before anybody else, pretty much, I already traveled with a face mask. If someone cuffs 10 meters in front of me, walking in front of me, I hold my breath and I kind of visualize where the cloud of their cuff has dispersed into, and I try to avoid it. And I might even temporarily close my eyes when I reach that spot. I'm much more aware of these little creatures that are floating around and the way that they spread than most people are. And I've always been responsible and cautious with that. So it's not that I'm not aware of these things. It's not that I don't take precautions. It's not that I don't use common sense, and I encourage you to do the same thing. And yes, there is a responsibility if there is indeed such a virus. And then But regardless, it's a responsibility for our physical hygiene to be maintained when we're interacting with others. It is a responsibility to, whenever we're sick or whenever we have the flu or anything that can be spread like that, to not unnecessarily go around and party with people or spread it to people. And I've seen people do this over and over again, just like, sneeze and cough in public without any precautions, without sneezing or coughing into their t-shirt like this. Even like little tidbits like that can help prevent a little bit. Of course, we can't avoid everybody, and when in situations like this, and we don't need to. But typically, I see people lack an awareness of their responsibility for spreading those second density creatures, aka bacteria and viruses and all that. So, anyway, just to let you know that I do believe that we should, on a conventional level, take responsibility for those types of understandings. Now, as to the situation, it's quite interesting feeling into it and feeling sort of the mass movement that is happening. Regardless of the coronavirus, its nature, whether it's engineered or not, and all that stuff. Two observations on a more worldly level. What doesn't make sense to me, okay, is the degree to which things are on lockdown, travel, quarantines, that kind of stuff. I've never in my lifetime seen the world do this for any other type of virus, even those that had a higher death rate, supposedly. So what is it about this whole quarantine thing and all this madness? And I'm not the first to say this, but what in the world is up with the toilet paper? That's just ridiculously funny to me, and it's so symbolic of the hysteria and the sort of the nuttiness of mankind and the hypocritical reasoning that pervades our society. So it's all coming to the surface, and it's really quite entertaining to see. Now, I feel good about this event because I think that whatever this is leading us to is greater awakening. I don't think this is the last in the next few years of things to come along these lines. And I think this is preparation. And if you see how much people are already freaking out, I encourage you even more to hold on to the love and the light and the wisdom and the connection and the relationship within yourself, to be as conscious as you can be about all these things. Now, what I was going to say is this whole lockdown thing and all the restrictions that are happening globally and all the chaos, it doesn't add up to me. I will say that. So either the virus is way worse than we are being told, more dangerous in terms of its physical implications, but they would prefer people to not freak out. That could be one reason for the whole, like, all the quarantines and the restrictions. I don't quite think that's it. I don't feel that the virus is as deathly as that they wouldn't share how deathly it is, but restrict travel and all that stuff to the degree that they are doing. They just being the people, the governments, and all that. The other theory I have is that this has a dual purpose or multiple purposes, and it's kind of a ruse, R-U-S-E, which means it's often used in like tactical or combat situations. This word, like, it's used in military terms as well, where they'll send out a troop over to the right, where the hill is blocking the enemy's view of what's happening on the left. And as they are distracted, believing that the attack is happening from the right, they're sending in the majority of troops from the other side. Something along those lines would be a ruse. So it's something that appears as one thing, but it's basically a distraction from what's really going on. And I do sense that a lot more is happening underneath the surface, so to speak, that is not being shared with the public. And although it could be easy to see this as as a negatively devised ruse, or utilized. If it's not devised for this purpose, it seems to be utilized in this way regardless. But ironically, or perhaps surprisingly, I feel good about it. Whatever is happening, whatever the ruse is, I feel good about its nature. I feel like where it's leading us is where we want to go, what our preference would be, at least most people's preference. So I can't help but feel quite good about the state of affairs and what's happening. And now I do recommend you, limit how much you go out and just stay sort of gathered around the fireplace, sort of symbolically speaking, gather the family around the fireplace and use your common sense. But by all means, like, feel into the love and the excitement within your heart and believe in the best possible outcome of this whole thing. And this is a great opportunity, again, to investigate into your own fears and into your own irrationality and into what portion of your consciousness has been sort of affected and infected, in this case, by the mass hypnotism that has been going on for millennia. And see where you're acting like the masses act, where if one sort of, one group or one part of the collective jumps over the cliff and the rest of the collective just kind of follows the lead. See where that sort of sheeple energy is present in you. Where have you chosen to plug yourself into sort of the mass fear and conditioning to the degree where you are also hypnotized and you are also easily able to be swayed and rused from left to right. So find your own center in this. Find your own fearlessness in this. And yeah. Sending you all much love and excitement. And we're all connected. Remember to meditate.